Friends and my dear viewers, in today's video I am going to discuss the topic of the solar radiation, heat balance and temperature. So in the previous video I made you understand about the concept of atmosphere and the structure of atmosphere. So a simple thing, when you are going or walking on a street, you feel something that blows, which is the air, but you can feel it properly when it blows in its strongest way. If you are in room, you are also exhaling and inhaling, that's why you are living, but you can't feel the air properly. So when we feel the air properly, when it isn't blowing, it is in strong motion. So the air which is in strong motion is known as the wind, which is very essential for the heat balance as well as the distribution of the solar radiations, which we need in the later topics. So now next, so my friends, due to the geoid shape of the earth did not receives or doesn't receives a proper balanced radiation. Somewhere in the earth the radiation are maximum and somewhere there are minimum radiation. So we are going to discuss about this, but first of all, what is solar radiation? So my friends, the we know that everything requires energy, and earth has many physical features, so it needs much of energy to keep all the human beings living, all the living beings living. So earth acquires most of energy from the sun in the form of solar radiation or insolation. That's why we are living here, because of the sun and the earth and the circumstances which makes us the living, as well as which makes us living. So we are going to talk about the polar regions and the tropical regions. So the distance between the earth and the sun, which when it is very maximum, it is known as aphelion, which is on the 4th of July. So that time the earth receives very much of less isolation, which of much isolation. So in that point the earth receives very less of energy, but at the Freefian period, which is the minimum distance between earth and sun, it receives much of energy. So there is a very essential role of the revolution of earth in the balance of the isolation, or we can say the solar radiation that gets the earth. Moreover, many factors affect the distribution of solar radiation, like ocean and seas, latitudes, other factors, reliefs, atmosphere. These all are the factors. Now we are going to talk about the variability of insolation on the earth. Why the insolation on earth is variable, it is not constant. So there are mainly 5 factors. So first is the rotation of the earth, how much time the earth takes to make a day and night. Second, the degrees from which it is titled, like the degrees of axis from which the rays can enter. It may be a straight ray or a slant ray. It depends upon the degree of axis by which earth is titled. Now third is the length of the day, for how much the time the days the earth faces the side of sun, it is the length of the day. And the fifth one is the transparency of atmosphere and the configuration of land. Different type of land receives different type of solar radiation. Somewhere in the oceans it receives less solar radiation, in the land it receives more solar radiation. Like this way the variability of insolation, or we can say solar radiation, is happens. The earth is entitled in 66 and half degrees of the angle. So the more the latitude you go, the less the solar insolation you feel. Like say in the polar region, the latitude is very high and it is in very up, like the sun rays faces slantly, the earth is entitled in this way. So the slant rays of the sun faces this what it causes a very less solar radiation. Whereas in the tropic of Cancer, or we can say tropical region, the sun rays faces directly to that part of area, so it makes it very easy to get more of the energy to the tropical regions, especially in the subtropical regions, like in desert, in Sahara desert, tropic of Cancer passes and the sun rays faces directly to it. That's why the Sahara is the most hottest region of the earth. Also, it while going to the atmosphere, when solar radiation goes into the atmosphere, many diffusion scattering process happens by which we can see the color of the sky, which is blue. A scattering process happens, a spectrum made is. Now we are going to see about the topic places of solar radiation through atmosphere. The things by which by the things which has been made by solar radiation through atmosphere. So see, the radiation which comes from the sun is not only the profitable one, but it also includes infrared rays, ultraviolet rays. So by passing through the atmosphere, the you can say the water droplets, vapors, water vapors, ozone layers, and different gases absorbs the radiation on that is harmful for us, which is infrared radiations or ultraviolet radiations. It absorbs, and the lighter radiations of short wavelengths, the short wavelengths only able to come into the earth's surface. It makes it possible to come in the earth's surface of shorter wavelength. That's why the harmful infrared radiation had been stopped earlier in the atmosphere. A process like, see, the gases allows the radiation to come into the atmosphere, and after in the process of going back, when the radiation goes back from the earth, the many gases like carbon dioxide and greenhouse gases stops or blocks the radiation by going outside of the earth atmosphere. That's why the temperature of earth is increasing day by day. A 320 watt per meter square in the tropics is the energy received by the solar radiation or the power, and a 70 watt of the power per meter square received in the tropical region. This is the differences due to the latitudes and the tiltness of earth. In winter, in the middle and high altitude receive less radiation than summers. और विंटर में तो और भी कम हो जाता है. इन विंटर the radiation of polar region goes very less, and it is also important because if you will get a proper radiation into the tropical region, then all the glaciers will melt and it will cause a very huge disaster. It will be very destructive because the ocean level will rise so much. So earth has made an ecological balance. Now we are going to see about the topic heating and cooling effects of atmosphere. After being insulated, not isolated, insulated, the earth is heated or warmed up. After being warmed up with the help of short waves, it at the night times it radiates back the solar radiation or insolation in the form of long waves. That's why the temperature of earth neither goes too hot or nor makes too cold, because the amount of radiation that came from the sun goes back to the a space with the help of backwarding of radiation, which happens in night. It is also known as terrestrial radiation. We will get to know after this in some time. See, the transfer of heat that makes, if the solar radiation come into the earth's surface, the earth's warm air rises up, because in a place where temperature increases, the air hotted and the hot air rises up. After the hot air rises up, it flows horizontally throughout the area of earth, which is known as abduction, which is known as abduction. But also my friends, due to the, like, see, the surface of the earth is radiating, and after the radiating, the earth is behaving like a radiatant body. It makes radiation to another things. So after being a radiatant body, it radiates the atmosphere. Which is known as conduction, that we have studied in the lower classes. जब हम एक एग्जांपल के तौर पर हम लोग समझ सकते हैं, जब हम लोग अगर एक कॉपर का रॉड को छूते हैं एक साइड से और दूसरे साइड पर आग लगती है, तो हम लोग को फील होता है कि ये गर्म हो रहा है, because of conduction. And then the warm air rises up due to the heat and it spreads all over, which is known as abduction. So because of what it happens, like, see, in the places of tropics, very much of heated is collected. So because of abduction, the heat is transferred to all of the areas in the tropics, by which the temperature is balanced. That's why it was needed. Now we are going to see about the tropic terrestrial radiation. So as I told, insolation makes the earth himself as a radiant body, and it radiates the upper layer, which is the atmosphere of the earth. That is the terrestrial radiation. And the atmosphere, after being, also behaves like a radiant body, and it transfers the radiation back to the space. That's why the temperature neither go ups or down. The temperature maintains, or we can say that's from this the ecological balance maintained. Now we are going to see the topic heat budget of the planet Earth. See, my friends, heat budget, what does it mean? See, the temperature of Earth will be balanced only and only if the total radiation that comes into the Earth in the form of short waveforms will go outside of Earth in the form of long waveforms. And the reflected amount of radiation of Earth is known as albedo of the Earth. The amount of reflection of the radiation, or we can say insolation, is known as the albedo. See, like, if 100 units of insolation has been faced by the Earth, then some percentage of the radiation will be absorbed by atmosphere in the process of scattering, or somewhat it will reflect. 65 units will be left out, and after then it will spread over the surface of the Earth and atmosphere. In the night time it will distribute all those radiation, or we can say insolation, back towards the space. If 65 unit had been came, then 65 units will also go from the Earth surface. That's why the heat budget, the heat and the temperature is needed to be constant. Now we are going to see about the topic variation in the net heat budget of the Earth surface. Some parts, but despite of being the proper absorption and reflection of the insolation, or we can say solar radiation, because of the geoid shape of the Earth that I have mentioned before, somewhere the radiation has been absorbed more, and in somewhere the radiation is deficit. So between the latitudes of 40 degrees north to 40 degrees south, the radiation is being well absorbed, so there is surplus of radiation. But in the polar region, the radiation is deficiated, and it is very important, as I mentioned. If it will not, all the glaciers will melt and the flood will came to all of the part of the Earth. So the radiation is deficiated, and the somewhat warmth needed to that region is spread due to abduction. Now we are going to talk about the topic temperature. So what is temperature? Due to the solar radiation, the heat generated all over the Earth is measured in the terms called as temperature. So what are the factors that influence temperature? There are mainly 4 to 5 factors, which are latitude, altitude, distribution of sea and water, oceanic currents, and some local aspects. These are the things. Now, distribution of temperature. How is the temperature distributed? We can understand the temperature distribution understandably and very clearly from the month of January to July, because that is the period when Earth faces the longest distance between the Earth and Sun, and the shortest distance between the Earth and Sun. Isothermals are the imaginative lines which helps us to understand the temperature among the places. The isothermal lines have equal temperatures all over the Earth's surface, by which we can see the how much of area is facing how much temperature. Now, my friends, we are going to discuss about our last topic, which is inversion of temperature. So the basic concept is that if you will go above the surface of the Earth, higher the altitudes, then the temperature will be lower. But in some cases, especially in polar region, the inversion of this process take place. If you will go above the altitude or surface of the Earth, then the temperature will rise. That is common. But in the places of mountain areas, it happens due to some special conditions, which I am going to explain you now. So mainly, my friends, the heat in the day that is absorbed by the earth has to be reflected during the night time. So in the night time, the air cools and the water vapor condenses in the form of fog. And you will see in the morning time it looks like hazes in the winter because of the low temperature, as well as the water vapor behaves like a condensed form, which is fog, and it appears on the surface of earth. But as the sun rises and the days happens, the fog disappears because it turns into the warm air and goes up to the surface of the earth. But in the in but friends, in the mountain areas, what happens? See, in mountain areas, what happens in the night time, there is a cool air. So there is a cool air, so cool air is always heavier than the warm air. And how the distribution of air flows in the from higher pressure areas to lower pressure, or we can say warmer areas to cooler areas. So in the night time, air cools, and in mountain areas, cool air settle down in the valleys. The cool air passes from the valleys while the warm air rises up and goes at the habitable zones of mountain areas. That's why people of mountain areas feel something like they feel warmth in the night time as compared to the daytime, because of the cold air flows in the valleys. That's why people say that रात के समय पर घाटियों में नहीं रुकना चाहिए, वहां पर ठंडी हवाएं बहती है, क्योंकि ठंडी हवाओं को, बिकॉज द कोल्ड एयर हैव टू मेक द एरिया फिल ऑफ द वैलीज, और जो वार्म एयर होते हैं वो ऊपर चले जाते हैं. दैट्स ऑल अबाउट द टॉपिक ऑफ inversion of the common thing, which was the inversion of the temperature. So thank you, my friend. It was the explanation video. See you next time.